"He's dead, ma'am," Mr. Barrow answered. "Died of jungle fever and business troubles combined." Miss Minchin dropped into her chair again. "What were his business troubles?" she said. "Diamond mines," answered Mr. Barrow, "and dear friends, and ruin." Miss Minchin lost her breath. "Ruin," she gasped out. "Lost every penny. That young man had too much money. His dear friend put all his own money into the mines, and all Captain Crew's. Then the dear friend ran away. Captain Crew was already ill when the news came. The shock was too much for him. He died, thinking about his little girl, and didn't leave a penny." Now Miss Minchin understood, and never had she received such a blow in her life. "Do you mean to tell me," she cried out, "that he left nothing? That Sarah will have no fortune? That the child is a beggar? That she is left on my hands a little pauper?" "She is certainly left a beggar," said Mr. Barrow, "and she is certainly left on your hands, ma'am, as she hasn't a relation in the world that we know of." "I am not responsible for her, and I refuse to be made responsible." Miss Minchin became quite white with rage. Mr. Barrow turned to go. "I have nothing to do with that, madam," he said uninterestedly. "I will turn her into the street," cried Miss Minchin. "I wouldn't do that, madam," said the man. "It wouldn't look well." He was a clever businessman, and he knew what he was saying. He also knew that Miss Minchin was a businesswoman, and would be shrewd enough to see the truth. She could not afford to do a thing which would make people speak of her as cruel and hard-hearted. "Better keep her and make use of her," he added. "She's a clever child, I believe. You can get a good deal out of her as she grows older. Good morning." When he left, the door was opened by Miss Amelia. "What is the matter, sister?" she asked. Miss Minchin wasted no words. "Captain Crew is dead," she said. "He has died without a penny. That spoiled child is left a pauper on my hands." Miss Amelia sat down quite heavily in the nearest chair. "Put a stop to this ridiculous party of hers." "I?" panted Miss Amelia. Must I go and tell her now?" "This moment," was the angry answer. Miss Amelia got up and went out of the room, without venturing to say another word. Some time later Miss Amelia returned. "Sister," she said, "she is the strangest child I ever saw. When I told her what had happened, she just stood quite still and looked at me without making a sound. Her eyes seemed to get bigger and bigger, and she went quite pale. When I had finished, she still stood staring for a few seconds, and then her chin began to shake, and she turned round and ran out of the room and upstairs." Nobody but Sarah herself ever knew what had happened in her room after she had run upstairs and locked her door. She walked up and down, saying over and over again to herself, in a voice which did not seem her own, "My papa is dead. My papa is dead." Once she stopped before Emily, who sat watching her from her chair, and cried out wildly, "Emily, do you hear? Do you hear? Papa is dead. He is dead in India, thousands of miles away." When she came into Miss Minchin's sitting room, her face was white, and her eyes had dark rings around them. It was clear that she didn't want to show what she had suffered, and was suffering. She no longer looked like the rose-colored butterfly child. She looked instead a strange, lonely little figure. She had put on, without Mariette's help, an old black dress. It was too short and tight, and her slender legs looked long and thin. She held Emily tightly in one arm. "Put down your doll," said Miss Minchin. What do you mean by bringing her here?" "No," Sarah answered. "I will not put her down. She is all I have. My papa gave her to me." She had always made Miss Minchin feel secretly uncomfortable, and she did so now. "You will have no time for dolls in future," she said. "You will have to work and improve yourself and make yourself useful." Sarah didn't say a word. "Everything will be very different now," Miss Minchin went on. "I suppose Miss Amelia has explained matters to you." "Yes," answered Sarah. "My papa is dead. He left me no money. I am quite poor." "You are a beggar," said Miss Minchin. "You have no relations and no home, and no one to take care of you. You are not a princess any longer. You will have no carriage, no maid. You will wear your oldest clothes. You are like Becky. You must work for your living. You speak French well, and you can help with the younger children." "May I?" exclaimed Sarah. "Oh, please, let me. I know I can teach them. I like them, and they like me." "Don't talk nonsense about people liking you," said Miss Minchin. "You will have to do more than teach the little ones. You will run errands and help in the kitchen, as well as in the schoolroom. If you don't please me, you will be sent away. Remember that. Now go." Sarah turned to leave the room. "Stop," said Miss Minchin. "Don't you intend to thank me?" "What for?" asked Sarah. "For my kindness to you," replied Miss Minchin. "For my kindness in giving you a home." Sarah made 2 or 3 steps toward her. "You are not kind," she said. "You are not kind, and it is not a home." And she had turned and run out of the room before Miss Minchin could stop her. Before she reached her room, Miss Amelia came out of the door and closed it behind her, looking nervous and awkward. The truth was that she felt secretly ashamed of the thing she had been ordered to do. "That is not your room now," Miss Amelia said. Somehow, all at once, Sarah understood. She realized that this was the beginning of the change Miss Minchin had spoken of. "Where is my room?" she asked, hoping very much that her voice did not shake. "You will sleep in the attic next to Becky." Sarah knew where it was. Becky had told her about it. When she reached the attic door and opened it, she saw a small, dingy room. There was a small fireplace and a hard bed covered with an old blanket. Some pieces of furniture, too much old to be used downstairs, had been sent up. Sarah sat on an old red footstool. She seldom cried. She did not cry now. She laid Emily across her knees and put her face down upon her and her arms around her. And as she sat in this silence, the door was timidly pushed open, and a face appeared. It was Becky's face, and Becky had been crying for hours. Sarah lifted her head and looked at her. She tried to begin to smile, and somehow she could not. Suddenly her face looked more like a child's, not so much too old for her years. "Oh, Becky," she said, "I told you we were just the same. Only 2 little girls. Just 2 little girls. You see how true it is. There's no difference now. I'm not a princess any more." Becky ran to her and caught her hand. "Yes, miss, you are," she cried, and her words were all broken. "Whatsoever happens to you, you'd be a princess, all the same."